Hey.
Hi, I'm Khalees.
And I'm Justin.
For a little bit of personality. If you're wondering why I have pom-poms in my hair.
And why I have these awesome suspenders.
Awesome suspenders. Then go watch this video. If you're wondering why we're dressed in Halloween costumes in the middle of November.
It's not in the middle of November. We're still in the past. It's still...
Oh, right. It's still Halloween.
It's still Halloween.
Magically, it's still Halloween.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, so... Oh, and my mouth is blue because I'm eating the lollipop that was in my hair in the last video, and now it's in my mouth. Okay, our question today is... we figured because we're dressed as two ENTPs, it would be a good time to address an ENTP question. We had a reader ask us as feeling, in her words, as an insecure, or an ENTP who didn't feel necessarily very secure in being an ENTP yet, how, for tips to communicate on an INTP who can be insecure or defensive about their ideas.
Can I interrupt and say, I like that you said yet? Yes. They don't feel very secure yet. It's not that, oh, you're an insecure person, you always be insecure. No, it's, as you get to know your type better, you get much more secure in your type.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So firstly, I have to go into that, for an INTP, obviously, as an INTP, ideas are very important to them, and, I mean, yeah.
It should be.
Yeah, but the thing is, that is their type specialization,
yeah.
And so for any type, what your type specialization is, the reason it's your type specialization is because it's what's most important to you.
Therefore, it's going to be kind of your most sensitive spot.
Exactly, it's what defines you as a person, and so just like as an EP, who you are is going to,
Yeah, your persona as an EP.
Like who you are is going to define who you are. But no, your persona is going to define who you are as an EP. For IPs, and for INTPs in particular, their ideas, their conceptual ideas are what define them as a person.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, be very sensitive about that. And
yeah, to step on their ideas is to step on them.
Exactly.
Now, likewise for EJs and IJs, the other two.
Yeah.
For IJs, it's your worldview and principles that define you, and so, and then for an EJ, it's your reliability, your actions, that define you. And so to criticize an EJ's actions and reliability is really to stomp on them right where it hurts. To sneer or make fun of an IJ's worldview and principles is to hit them where they define themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting seeing when someone's trying to be mean to someone else, how they instinctively know where to hit them.
That's the thing. So often, it's not like someone will study personality type and be like, I think this is what's going to bother them. It just as people, we read other people, and so we know this is what's going to poke them and hurt them, and so, so be aware of that.
Sorry, another side note.
Go ahead.
Interestingly enough, though, often when we advise other people, we often advise them according to what would best help us and best help our type.
That's true.
So an EP often advise someone according to personas, an IJ will advise someone according to principles and worldview and stuff. That's not a bad thing, but it can be nice trying to advise people according to what they need.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that personality typing in general helps, that you can know what somebody else needs, and so often we do assume that everybody else thinks like us, and yes. That somebody of a different type thinks the same way, they're just doing very badly at it,
Yeah. So we kind of think that everyone thinks like us, and the ones who don't think like us just, again, are doing badly at it. So it's a very quick and easy way to think that everyone but you is stupid.
Yeah. So that's what personality type is supposed to help against.
Yes.
But another thing about Ns in intuitives as a whole can have the tendency to not appreciate things. And so often, what gets talked about more is S's having trouble with change, or trouble letting go of things that are, of good things that are important to them, and accepting newer things.
Which is a tendency.
Yeah, it's a tendency. But then the misconception, I think, what people think of being the other side of that with N is like we get this weird we hear a lot of N's like having their heads in the clouds and stuff, and that doesn't really...
I think perhaps the stereotype that might actually come from is the stereotype that S is more practical, which they are not necessarily more practical any more than any type is. The S's are necessarily more practical, and N's are more head in the clouds. I wonder if that's where the stereotype of N's being head in the clouds has come from.
And that's, I mean...
S's aren't necessarily more practical, they again, like Lisa's saying,
Weirdly lit because the clouds
strange.
got over the sun.
But you were saying when they have difficulty with something, it's they have difficulty letting go of things as they are. And
yeah,
having to change.
the equivalent. I mean, which makes more sense to be equivalents of each other. You know that because S's are about protecting things.
Well, and they're about experience. They think in terms of things they've actually experienced, so naturally they protect things that they actually know as they are from experience.
Yeah, but so that's, I mean, their specialization is about protecting good things, you know, whatever their scope is, you know, read type specializations. But
whereas N's being about, instead of experience is about concepts, and actually N's end up thinking a little more about what could be.
Yeah,
because it's not just about what you have experienced.
And stuff, but then N's can not appreciate the good that's already there.
They're too focused on what could be, but they don't have any appreciation of what is.
Exactly. And then
when they're unhealthy. I'm not saying N's or S's have to be this way. I'm saying
no,
this is
that's a
the unhealthy tendency
that both
of each.
have to watch out for.
Yeah.
But so then NTs in particular, being about the potential use of things, can really not appreciate the meaning that's already there in things.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Can be a problem for all 4 NTs in different ways. And then every type will when they're struggling with something, will feel like the thing that's getting in the way of them doing their specialization, of them doing their first cognitive steps, and will feel like the thing that's getting in the way is their 4th cognition step, which is the area where they feel the most insecure.
Yeah.
And so, for example, going through the NTs, INTJs will feel like people are what's getting in the way of their beautiful world vision.
Step.
You know, they have this beautiful world, you know, in their mind, and just if people just would do it right.
So we have Darth Vader must crush anyone who stands in his way. These darn people making it messy.
Yeah, yeah. They give so many examples for that. You know,
INTJs who feel like people are messing up their plans for the world.
Exactly, and then ENTJs, it would be.
So EJ's 4th step being details and conclusions.
Yeah, details and conclusions. That just these little insignificant details and stuff are getting in the way of what they want to do with their group.
I had this great plan. What's with all these little details?
Or you're getting in the way of their actions. You know, that they have all these great actions they want to do, and just these little details are frustrating, getting in the way.
Yeah.
And then for INTP, because their 4th is principles and
the world in general, the universe in general.
Like the way the world works is just getting in the way. That they have all these great ideas that should work on paper, and then when it comes into interaction with the way the world works, it just doesn't work.
Yes.
You know, and so they'll often have, you know, so then we get, like I talked about in The Alchemist, they'll get these feelings of nihilism and just, oh, the world is just broken, so often. And then ENTPs, well, like all EPs
action.
feel like, like their actions get in the way. And so as ENTPs... In the way of
I know who I am, I know the person I want to be, but my actions just keep not lining up with that.
Yeah, and so, of the 4, ENTPs will have a tendency to blame themselves more than the other 3. Not always.
Don't be afraid to say why.
Okay. Oh, well, you can explain that if you want.
of the 4 first and last letters, IJ is technically the hardest, generally speaking. Now, that's a very vague term, but moving on, we can talk about more. But EPs are often the softest, IJs are the hardest.
Well, because I tends to be a harder letter than E, and J tends to be a harder letter than P. You know, we could go into the middle letters at some point. But
hard and soft very vaguely. But just in the way people generally come off. You know, and so EPs are the 4 are the softest, so ENTPs are the softest of the NTs. INTJs are the hardest of the NTs. But yeah. But so ENTPs being the softest of the NTs, you're a little bit more liable to blame yourself when something doesn't go right. Yeah.
And so often in an interaction between INTP and ENTP, the INTP might have a tendency to give the ENTP a hard time, which the ENTP is going to take as, I messed up, I screwed up, I did it all wrong. But probably what's going on is the INTP is really just frustrated at the world as a whole and just how things work. And they feel like they can't change that so often because it's hard to feel like
if they can't change the world, where do they go instead?
which it's defensive is they're feeling defensive as it is anyway, and IJs feel more like they can change the world. IPs don't feel like they can change the world.
It's IJ's
usually.
first step, IP's last step. So
yeah, exactly.
So if the IP feels like the world's getting in the way, the INTP, and they say feels like the world's getting in the way,
and they
can't fix that.
Yeah.
Who does he blame instead? Where does he go next?
Other people around, and so
is that actually their second cognition step?
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's just that, yeah, I mean, they would probably end up using the cognition steps in the middle, either, people or action and being like,
But they
I
often,
just have to
but
do
INTPs in practice generally end up blaming people for getting in the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have this idea, my first cognition step. The world is getting in the way, and yeah, people. Is there a second cognition step for IPs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
EPs first.
my first cognition step got thwarted by my fourth. So where am I going to go? I can't fix the fourth. My first is being thwarted, so let's go to the second.
Yeah.
And so it's blaming
Well,
people.
I mean, honestly, though, what it sometimes ends up being is because when you're feeling insecure about something, often it's your last two steps that you go to, and so sometimes IPs will be you did action wrong.
It's
you
true.
know?
It's true. Yeah, you're right. So in any case, they go to some cognition step where they feel like they can go.
Yeah,
Doesn't have to be their
exactly.
second.
Well, yeah, they feel like, oh, well, people I can change. I can't change the world.
Yeah.
Which, you know,
So the point being, the
isn't necessarily
INTP,
true,
like many IPs, will end up taking it out on the actions of a person close to them, or a person at hand.
Yeah.
Actions of an available person.
Yeah. Should I go into the Penelope stuff?
Yeah. Are we ready for that? We went through the stuff you wanted to say about
Before
ENTP
that,
and
at the moment,
INTP
yeah.
relationships. Yeah, so let's talk more about the ENTP.
Well, because we'll talk about it more after.
Yeah.
But well, when weirdly enough, I didn't actually see Wreck-It Ralph until recently. It's a great movie. But what was I gonna say? But one thing I really related to watching it, you know, and we didn't know until we watched that she was ENTP and everything. But seeing her, the way she glitches, the way she is a glitch, I related to a lot, you know, and that's such an ENTP thing, feeling like I'm messed up and that's just the way I am, you know, and similarly,
EJ's like, why don't you just stop messing up? EJ's first step
do
being
it
action.
right.
Why don't you just do it right?
Yeah, it's like
the
it's our
first
fourth.
time.
We don't know how to do that.
So, you know, EJ's first step being action, whereas EP's last step being action, it's like, it's not like I'm not trying.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, so.
Yeah, which it's interesting, Ralph being an EP too, being an ESFP, but anyway, him also feeling like he just can't do it right compared to ESFJ.
Felix being
Felix,
an EJ, action's
do
his first step.
Oh, he does everything right, but anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
But similarly, watching, saying watching because I did very little of the playing myself of Halo.
Good world, good story.
Yeah, how much I relate with Cortana, and hopefully not too many spoilers or whatever, but in 3 and 4, Halo 3 and 4, she's going through these stages of rampancy, which means, you know, as an AI...
Her mind is breaking down. She's arguing with herself. She's losing it.
And Forward Unto Dawn, which is a movie between 3 and 4, such a good movie. At the beginning, Cortana's talking to herself, and she's talking about, you know, that, oh, I just need to think, and then the other her is saying thinking's what's killing you.
She's
and
thinking yourself to death, which
she's
is
thinking yourself to death.
Kind of the way you feel when you're
yeah,
overthinking things.
I feel like that so often. It's like, just shut up in there, you know? But something I realized recently, which he helped a lot with, but was that as ENTPs, yeah, you feel so guilty for breaking things, not realizing that part of functioning as an ENTP, you have to break things in order to figure out new ways to make them work.
It's pure Tony Stark. That's why Tony Stark's able to make things in a cave, and so many other people weren't. He breaks things in order to find new ways of doing things. It's Doc Brown, breaking things in order to find new ways of doing things. And so Tony Stark, when he invents a better arc reactor, he's like, the old one, trash it, it's done, it's an antique, I don't care about it.
Which can show that and not appreciating things,
and that
you know,
ends up biting him in the butt later. But the fact that he threw out the old one. But anyway, or almost did. But
for Pepper.
that tendency of embracing being able to break things in order to find new ways of doing them, which can be a bad thing. But when an ENTP does it, because it's their specialization, they're often able to do it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think that's really important, not being afraid to do things wrong, you know, and that's such a big thing for Vanellope, that she figures out that, you know, even when she realizes that she wasn't she wasn't a glitch all along, that she realizes that she wants to keep that part of herself, you know, that she still wants to be a glitch. Yeah, that makes her special and ultimately useful in the way that she wants to be, which is, you know, as ENTPs what we want the most.
So as an ENTP, be willing to break things, because when you break things, break action, break yourself, that's when you find new things that you would never have thought of on your own. So,
yeah, you know, they say, I'm going to screw up the quote, but what is it? That most great inventions...
Oh, yeah, I think it's Isaac Asimov or someone. Isaac Asimov brings up pain right now because it brings me thinking of my scientific method videos.
Which you should totally watch, but anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, change that real quick. If you're like, oh, I don't want to watch the scientific method videos, either one, because I don't understand science, then it's for people who aren't science buffs, and two, oh, I know all about the scientific method. I go into things besides the basic scientific method. So I made videos about
how it applies to personality typing. And there are 3 videos if you didn't realize.
And how people who generally tend to try to talk about the scientific method the most violate it the most.
Yes.
But anyways, so back to what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
The Isaac Asimov quote about ENTPs breaking things. Isaac Asimov saying that most scientific, I think it was him, saying most scientific discoveries were heralded not by saying, Eureka, I figured it out. No, but heralding by saying, well, that's funny. You know, like the discovery of the microwave when the guy's chocolate bar melted in his pocket accidentally.
Yeah.
You know? And so
that's the thing. Is so often on the road to discovery, you have to break things first. You know, you have to mess them up in order to do them right.
Speaking as a J, if you try to plan things too much, you're going to so much limit the potential of good things you can find, of better solutions and plans that you can find. Well, let things run free a little bit, let things break a little bit, and you'll find things that you would never have found.
Absolutely. Well, this is a good principle for P's in general, and I really want to do a J versus P post at some point here and talk about the 2 different ways and how important both of them are. But as a P, you know, if you're a P, then your job is to explore new ways of doing things, new ways of being, new ways of everything.
That's where you excel.
And so don't be ashamed of that. You know, that you know, yes, sometimes we have to, you know, we need to have plans too. We need to, you know, go forward and do things and stuff. We can't always be figuring out new ways, but in general, our culture tends to be more J-oriented. And
this culture does.
Yeah, this culture.
Not every culture, but this culture very much.
Most
modern Western
culture. As P's, we often feel guilty for trying things out, you know, even if, you know, or starting something and then
for failing. For trying something and failing, trying something and not finishing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I learned what I wanted to learn from it, why do I need to finish it?
Well, and I mean, which is totally, it's something that INTPs need to learn too.
Yeah.
Certainly is that, you know, when you try something and you learn a new way of doing something, it doesn't matter as much that project doesn't get finished because you learned something and you learned a new way to do things that's going to apply to other things, and that's really important.
Yeah.
I think that was about that mostly I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to give some more tips for dealing with INTP in particular. Like we said before, be sensitive to INTPs and how important their ideas are to them.
Yes.
That's really important.
And again, like we were talking about with P's exploring, encourage them to explore new ideas. And if
they don't have to do it right the first time either.
Exactly. If their Mark 1 isn't their final, well, fine. It doesn't have to be. Encourage them that they're finding new ways each time.
Yeah. I had some INTP and ENTP relationships listed that are just... That's the thing, is that INTPs and ENTPs can get along so great and find new ways to use things in, you know, and bounce off each other, and it's so great. And so some of my favorite INTP ENTP relationships are Mozzie and Neil from White Collar.
Yeah.
They're so great and they bounce off each other so great. And Toby and Josh from
The West Wing. Josh Lyman and Toby Ziegler. Yeah.
I was gonna say White Wing. It was like the White House mixed with White Collar. Anyway, West Wing. Anyway, that's.
And I'm sure that we can think of plenty.
Oh yeah, but those are some of my favorites, and both of those they need each other and they bounce off each other so well and feed each other, you know.
Yes. But just following up on what we were just saying before about not needing to finish things. If an INTP starts a project, starts an invention, starts putting something together, and they don't finish it, that's fine. And so often I think the INTP will get down on themselves saying, oh, I have this shed full of half-finished projects. I have this folder on my computer full of half-finished code. You know, I have all these things half-finished. Maybe finishing the code or finishing the project, maybe that wasn't your intent. Maybe deep down without realizing it, learning a new way of doing something was your intent. Yeah. Finding out a way to make this system work was your intent.
Yeah, well,
and so if you want to finish it, great. But so often, that unfinished project in your shed is going to make your next project go that much more smoothly.
Exactly.
Because you know how you got
well, like, if you guys could see my little bit of personality folder, there are so many blog posts that I've started and not finished, but there always ends up being pieces of them that end up in later ones. There always ends up being concepts from them that end up in later ones. And, yeah, I mean, well, it's a weird one to come to mind, but the ENTP and gender post, that was a different one first and ended up being evolving. And I got a lot of emails after that one about how much that had meant to be, which means a lot to me. Thank you for your awesome emails. But that's the kind of thing is if you too rigidly hold things as what they are and don't discover new ways to change them and evolve them, then you're gonna, for the sake of doing it right, then you're gonna stagnate the final product and what it could be.
It's not to say that J is bad. It's to say that going to an extreme of any of the 8 letters is unhealthy.
Yeah.
We're always going to do one or the other first, and that's going to reflect, cognitively speaking. Behaviorally, you can change all the time. Cognitively speaking, you're always going to do one or the other first, but nonetheless, we should try to exercise all of them, and that helps us get healthier.
Well, and the thing too is that each type. Oh, this is such a post in and of itself, but each type has natural things built into it to help the way it thinks.
Oh, the fail-safe stuff.
Yeah, checks and balances.
Every type is fail-safes,
yeah, things like that.
To make sure you don't go too far to one extreme or another.
Exactly, ways to balance it out. And
the 5th through 8th cognitive step.
In the last video, I kind of said that J versus P makes the biggest difference, and in some ways it does. But the thing is, because J versus P determines your cognitive order more than any other letter, it in some ways determines a lot about the way you think and the way you do action. The J versus P is very much the action letter. Sorry, this is not a tangent I planned on going on, but anyway.
And we'll do post to go more depth into this. Mentioning stuff.
I haven't done a J versus P set apart post yet when I plan to, but P cognitive function has things built into it to help it get stuff done in the way it needs to get stuff done. Just like J cognitive function has ways built in to explore things, but toward the ends that they're supposed to be doing.
When we're healthy. When we get unhealthy, we start throwing away those fail-safes, which haven't explained them yet. But when we get unhealthy, we start getting too extreme and hiding and just, my way of thinking is the only one that's valid.
Yes.
And so therefore we start cutting off anything that's different from our own way of thinking.
So we talked about so many times we need all the types.
Yeah. Even inside ourselves, we each need all the types.
Yeah, but so often when we tell other people to do things the way we do, they try and apply these things to their cognitive process, which is totally different from ours. And it ends up throwing a wrench in their fail-safes, in their ways of doing things. And it messes up the way that the human mind is so laid out perfectly.
Trying to force other people to think the way you think will work for maybe 1/16 of the people.
Yeah, imagine that.
And it'll work particularly badly for people who think particularly differently from you.
Yeah.
And so it all comes back to helping people understand themselves, and so seeing if you're a little different from someone else, from someone else you look up to and perhaps should look up to, or if you're a little different from the culture and cultural pressures, then helping them understand, well, maybe that's not the way you're supposed to think in the first place. Maybe that's not the way you do think in the first place. Not the way your mind deeply works. And so when they understand how they do work, can one, help them be healthier themselves, and two, help them be able to understand other people and work with other people better. Yeah. Instead of trying to make everyone else think the way that you think.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to decide if there's anything else to talk about before.
This is good. This one's gone on a little long as it is, and then we'll talk about other stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for your questions, and thanks for watching, and yeah.
And you're wanting to talk about some other stuff because there's so much else to talk
about. There's so much else to talk about.
We'll get to it in posts and everything.
Yeah. And we're still hoping to do more and more videos and everything.
Yep. Good. More great stuff coming. Really exciting stuff.
Okay. Love you guys. Have a great Thanksgiving, or if you live in the U.S., or have a great Thursday if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving this week. We love you guys so much. I think I said that like 4 times. Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.